Hello and welcome to episode 6 of High Five Fitness. We're here to share our passion about fitness to our viewers. I want you to get into exercise. If you're pushing yourself, push harder. Go the extra distance. If you're not yet exercising, we're going to be hitting some great moves for you to get started with today. We have a special guest with us, but before I want to bring up our lead trainer, Sheena. Sheena, come on over.
Hello.
So what are you going to be teaching us about today?
Today we're going to be going over my most favorite muscle group, the glutes. So, a lot of us experience pain on a daily basis or when we're trying to be active, whether it's running, squatting, even just getting out of your car. A lot of us experience neck pain, back pain, knee pain. And a lot of times, the reason why we experience pain anywhere in our body, it's because we have imbalances. And some muscles can be weak, and some muscles might be too tight. And that doesn't mean that they're stronger, it just means that they need to be worked out a little bit better and stretched out.
Well, can I stop you there? And
Sure.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows fitness is for all ages. This isn't just for younger folks. And to prove that point, you actually brought your mom here with us today.
I did. My mom was wonderful enough to be able to make it today and show us how we can do some modifications if you're just a beginner or you do experience pain when exercising. So I'm really happy that my mom was able to make it today. So my name is Sheena Nato. I'm owner of Live Liberated Fitness, and I have been a trainer for 8 years now. Most of my experience has been in physical therapy. And what I've seen there, no matter what the injury is, no matter where you're having spasms in your body, it's probably because your glutes are not firing. And this typically happens when we sit down all day long. And it can start from childhood. You could have fallen on your back when you were a child off of your bike when you were 8, not realizing that that's why you have sciatica pain now at the age of 45. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make sure that the glutes are working. So today is the Wake Up the Booty series, okay? So what we're going to do is Twee, come on over, and we're going to start with a warm-up. What we want to do is we want to get some blood flowing through the areas of the muscles that we're working today. So we're going to start by lubricating our hip joint and loosening up and getting all the blood flowing through there by marching in place. So we're just going to bring our knee up to our chest. And when we do this, we're going to stand up even taller with each stretch. So we're not curling down. You want to make sure that you're standing up nice and tall. We're going to do one more on each side. Great. Now for the next one, let's go ahead and bring our knee up to the opposite shoulder. Good. Really feel that stretch of the glutes back there. One more each. Good. And now we're going to open up the fronts of our muscles that get really tight from sitting down all day long and can actually cause a lot of back pain. So we're just going to bring our heel to our butts back here. Up and switch. Good. Try not to let your leg go out to the side. If it does, bring it forward and then bring it back as far as you can. If you're out to the side, that means you're a little snug up here, and that's okay. As we get stronger and as we move along, you're going to be able to keep your leg back. Okay. Now we're going to really warm up the glutes by getting down on the ground on our backs. Okay, so while we're here, we're going to go ahead and bring our heels as close to our body as possible. So if you can, bringing your heel to your butt cheek would be optimal. A lot of us are a little snug in the knee areas and we might not be able to do that, and that's okay. But the main focus is that our feet are hip width apart. We're lining up our toes with our kneecap and our hip bone, okay? Nice straight line. Now, there are two primary motions of our hips, and that's the anterior pelvic tilt where you're rocking back and creating an arch in your back, really increasing the lordosis. Then there's a posterior pelvic tilt, and that one is where you're pressing that arch of the low back into the ground, using your abs. And when we engage our abdominal muscles, we actually can fire our glute muscles a lot stronger. So we're gonna start with that posterior pelvic tilt. Then from there, you're gonna just lift your hips up a little bit off the ground. Not too high that we're causing an arch in our back. We wanna keep our rib cage down on the ground if possible. So let's go ahead and go up and down, really just firing the glutes, a small motion. Now when you're lifting, you're exhaling and you're pressing your heels and your big toe into the ground. You don't want to press too much with your toes because that can cause a lot of pressure in your quadriceps and in your kneecap. Good, let's just do two more. And also watch that your knees aren't splaying outwards or trying to touch each other while you're doing this. We want to keep a nice straight line from your hip bone, kneecap, and second toe. Good, now from here, let's go ahead and bring your knee into your chest And let's hold that there. And we're gonna do some single leg bridging. So again, make sure that that heel is as close to your body as possible. And you're gonna lift, pressing with your heel and big toe into the ground. And again, not lifting so high. Heels on the ground. And now if this is too hard for you, then you can just do a bridge and start marching. Just lifting alternating legs. Yep, just like that. You also want to make sure that your hips try to stay nice and level so that you're not dropping down with one of them. Go and lift up. Let's go and switch legs. So when you're lifting, you want to make sure that one hip isn't falling off to the side or you're having to shift your weight. Really notice if you're a little wobbly. And don't be afraid if your muscles start shaking, because shake means change. Good, are you guys feeling that? Oh yeah. And if you're starting to feel it more in the back of your thigh or in your back area, just make sure that you're pressing with your heel and that your heel is as close to your body as possible. Okay, let's do 2 more. Great. All right, let's get our feet together. And let's bend your knees so that they're at a 90-degree angle, so they're not so close to your body anymore. Let's go ahead and lift up your arm and roll onto your side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use one of the primary functions of the gluteus maximus, the biggest hip muscle that we have. Now, what that muscle likes to do is it likes to externally rotate, keeping our knees in line with our feet. So you're going to keep your heels together. Your hip is stacked on top of itself so that you're not rolled forward, nor are you arched backwards. So make sure that you're nice and stacked. From here, you're just going to roll up your knee just a little bit. Not so high that your back has to be forced backwards. It's a very, very small motion, very small. Good, and also helps to make sure that you're holding your belly button in towards your spine, really stabilizing the 3 bones that create your pelvis. So the more stable that is, then the more your glutes can actually really contract. Good, let's do 2 more here. Looking good. Great. So another function of the glutes is to abduct your leg. So we're going to straighten out the knee. And I like to maintain this angle right here because when we're walking or when we're running, this is the exact angle at which we land with our foot. Now, most of the time our knees will take the pain, our heel will take it, or our back will have to absorb the force of us walking. However, when our glutes are firing properly, these will absorb all of the force. Let's go ahead and lift the leg again just a little bit. Make sure that your thighs are staying parallel to each other. If you've ever seen those seated hip abduction or adduction machines where you sit in the chair and you go like this, those machines are actually really bad for you and can cause more pain in your back because you're stretching out the glutes in that position and not actually using the muscles that should be doing that motion. So if you want to know how to get the sides really strengthened and toned, this is the exercise to do. Let's go ahead and do 2 more. Good, and the last one that we're going to do in this position before we switch sides, go ahead and bring your top leg back so that it's lined up with your bottom shoe. From here, check your hips, make sure that they're stacked and you're not leaned back or leaned forward. Hold that belly button in towards your spine. Keep your leg nice and straight and you're just going to lift up and back just a little bit. Good, so up and back. It might feel like your leg is backwards behind you, but it's actually the knee joint and the hip joint are actually perfectly aligned in this position. Now the importance of this muscle, this is your gluteus medius. This muscle helps to keep your hips nice and level when we're walking. And it's very important that we can keep our hips level when we're walking because otherwise our back ends up twisting with each step that we take when our hips can't hold us up evenly, which can cause a lot of back pain. Make sure that you're not feeling it in the front of your hip, and if you are, just make sure that you can roll your hip a little bit more forward and kick a little bit behind you. 1 more. Great. Let's go ahead and roll on to the other side. Now, since that was so easy for Twee here, we're going to go ahead and put this resistance band around her knees. Janice has been doing the harder version this entire time. So you just want to take the band and put it around your knees, okay? So we're gonna start with that clamshell exercise with the knees bent. Heels are lined up with your sit bones back here. Belly button's pulled in nice and tight. Go ahead and rotate your knee up just a little bit. Good. So if you ever notice that when you're walking or doing squats and your knees like to come in towards each other, or when your kneecap comes in relative to your second toe, this exercise right here will really help you keep your knees outwards, keeping your body nice and aligned. Good, let's do one more. Great, now go ahead and straighten out that top leg. Good, and lift. Perfect. Good, just two more. Great, and for the last one, for that glute med, bring that leg straight behind you. Again, take note that the knee is feeling like it's behind your hips, okay? And we're gonna kick up and back. Perfect. And make sure you're holding that belly button towards your spine. Roll those hips forward so that you're not leaned back, twisting our low back. Doing this exercise will also help alleviate any IT band problems. So a lot of us get pain in our kneecaps around here, and there's a band of tissue that connects from our glutes and the muscles in the front. And a lot of times we'll spend a lot of time using a foam roller to roll these knots out, when really we shouldn't be rolling this out, we should just be strengthening this whole backside to absorb all of the stuff that the IT band is actually absorbing instead. One more. Great, okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and stand up after I unbond you. Okay, now for our standing exercises. We're gonna start with an overhead squat. So we're gonna strengthen our upper body and our trunk as well as our glutes. Let's go ahead and stand with our hands way up ahead. And with our feet, we always wanna maintain to start with, we always wanna maintain our hip bone lined up with our kneecap with our second toe, okay? This will always be the perfect standard to start with and rebalance the body. From here, we can step out just a little bit, point your toes out a teeny tiny bit, so we're not in a plie position, just a little turned out. Keep those hands up, and now we're gonna drop all the way down to the ground. Great. And as we're coming up, what you wanna imagine is that you're actually taking the outsides of your feet and splitting the ground in half in front of you. So you wanna just try to split the ground in half with your feet, pressing your heels down and the outsides of your feet into the ground, waking up the abducting aspect and the extension of your glute max. And also hold that belly button nice and tight. Now, if you can't go down as far, you can stick with Luella, and she's only going down just a little bit. And as you get stronger, you can work in little bits of ranges, because the stronger you get there, it'll carry over and you'll be able to go deeper and deeper as you get stronger. Let's do two more. Looking good, you guys. Are you feeling it? Oh yeah. And you'll notice too that when you're feeling it in your glutes, you're not feeling it back here, it's more on the sides, right? Is that where you guys are feeling it? More on the sides. All right, now we're gonna get into some lunges. Now these aren't your usual lunges. I call these tie your shoe lunges. So let's go ahead and start with our feet hip width apart, noticing that we're keeping this lined up with our kneecap with our second toe. We're gonna go ahead and bring our right foot back about a shoe length behind us. Perfect. And you wanna make sure that you stay on your very tiptoe back here. So we're not gonna drop back or shift our weight back behind us or drop the heel down. Stay on the tiptoe, most of the weight should be on the front leg. Now as we come down, we're gonna drop down like we're gonna go and tie our shoe. So come on down. Good, but we wanna make sure that we're not gonna round our back like we're gonna really tie our shoe. So you're gonna wanna stick your butt out behind you, stick your chest out, and then come on up, pressing your front heel and big toe into the ground. Come on down. Great, again, make sure you're pulling that belly button in nice and tight. Good, now if that's easy, you can go ahead and start adding some motion to it. So go ahead and bring your leg up to you, good. Now we're going from a lunge to the standing position. Now if that's easy for you, let's go ahead and go to a full balance, bringing your leg nice and forward, perfect. And again, make sure that you're not leaning over to the side or having to, let one hip drop and using that IT band. We wanna stay up nice and level. Great, let's switch sides. So we're gonna go and start with just the standing one. So hip width apart, shoe length behind you, stay on that tiptoe, and come on, drop down. Good, press up with the heel and the big toe of the front leg. Good, and you wanna take notice that both of your legs, your knees are staying in line with that second toe so that we're not coming inwards and we're not pulling out, okay? So we always want to stay nice and lined up. Good, let's go ahead and add this to the standing. Perfect. Now make sure that when you're doing the standing version that you're not taking a huge step back behind you. It's teeny tiny, just a shoe length behind you. Also in the down position, you want to make sure that you're keeping the shoulder above the knee, above the ankle, so that we're not too far forward and causing too much pain on the knee, but we're staying nice and aligned, helping the glutes stay active. Let's go ahead and go to standing. Good, do one more standing and then we'll do balance. Good, and now we're gonna go to the more difficult advanced version. Great. Good, just try not to let your foot go too close behind you. You wanna keep it nice and wide, hip width apart. Great, all right. So that's for the tie your shoe lunges. Now we're gonna work on some side lunges. Now with these, let's go ahead and get our feet nice and wide apart. And we're gonna start by just dropping down to our right side. And again, you wanna make sure that that shoulder is above the knee, above the ankle. We don't wanna move our knees past our toes because then that's gonna make our quadriceps wanna do all the work like they usually do. Shift that weight back, make sure that the big toe and the heel is touched down, ankle, knee, shoulder nice and lined. Go ahead and come up. Good. Come down. And if that's easy, you can go ahead and start going to a standing position. So go ahead and shift to your left. Good. And when we're doing this, you want to make sure that your opposite leg stays straight the entire time. Otherwise, if you let that knee bend while we're moving, then that takes out our abducting ability and our adducting ability. So then we're not working our inner thigh and outer thigh anymore. So keep that leg nice and straight as you come back. Go ahead and go to balance now. So we're gonna go and hold it. Perfect. Great, let's try the other side. So you're out nice and wide, and we're gonna start by just bending over to the left. Again, shoulder above the knee, above the ankle. Not too far forward, nice and way back. Your butt should be way in back of you, as far back as you can get it. And we want to keep our heels and our big toes down, okay? Those are the key factors in making sure that we're using the right muscles when we're doing any lower body exercises. And let's go ahead and add the dynamic version. So we're going to go to a standing. Perfect. Out and standing. Good. Really feel your glute muscles stretch back there. And let's go to balance on these next few. And hold it. There you go. Come down. Hold. Perfect. One more. Fantastic, all right. Now, one of my most favorite exercises to do is a curtsy. I like this one because two of the main functions of the glute max is to externally rotate the hip, like we did in the clamshell, and also to extend. So we're straightening out from this position. Also, we're kicking back. So in a curtsy, we're gonna start with our feet in first position. Heels are touching. Then let's bring our right foot back so that the toes are touching our front heel. Then bring that foot back a shoe length and tiptoe. If we're too tight in our hips, we might lean back a little bit. So try not to do that. And if you're tight, it's okay to have your back leg a little bit out to the side, more like in the tie your shoe lunge. So let's go ahead and come on down. Make sure here that your knee is staying lined up with that second toe, lined up with your hip. So we're not too far out, twisting and causing pain on our knee, or too far inwards, again, causing any pain. So from here, big toe and heel pressing down again, and go ahead and straighten up. Perfect. And again, we're making sure that that belly button's tucked in because when we pull that in, our glutes can activate a lot more. Good. And as this gets easier, then you can go ahead and start adding some motion. So we'll bring the back leg up to the front. Back, front. Perfect. One more. Good. And if that's easy, we're going to add some attitude to it. And the way we do that is keeping that knee bent and rotated inwards. You're going to kick out as you extend. So we come down and add attitude. Come down, really waking up those fibers of the entire glute max. Great, and other side. So again, starting in first position, left foot comes back, back even further on the tiptoes. And remember, we're not shifting our weight back at all. It's all about the front leg. So let's come on down, bending over from the hips. Good. And make sure that your back really doesn't do any other motion except stays straight the entire time. So you don't want to round from the chest. You don't want to tuck your hips under. It's always keeping the back nice and straight. Good, and let's add the single leg balance to it. Bringing that back leg up to the front calf. Perfect. And now let's throw in some attitude. Perfect. Great. Okay. Now the other side of making sure that our glutes are firing properly is to make sure that the muscles in the front aren't so tight that it won't allow our glutes to fire. So first we're gonna do some hip flexor stretching, okay? Now these get really tight from sitting down and from standing with poor posture, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and get down on one knee. It's nice to use a towel or a pillow to put under your knee, but if you already have knee pain, go ahead and stick with Luella because she's gonna do the standing version. So let's go ahead and get down on one knee. The other knee is out in front. Now the first thing that we're gonna do, lunge. Yes, yes, you're gonna tiptoe on the back leg. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna tuck your hips under. So we're doing that posterior pelvic tilt. And now from here, if you don't already feel the stretch in the front, you wanna make sure that you're squeezing the cheek on this side to allow the front to relax. And then you can bring your hips forward ever so gently. Good. Now you wanna hold that in front for a good slow count to 30 when you're on your own. Now from here, bring your hand up, bring your opposite hand on the inside, and then you're just gonna turn your chest towards the right. Perfect. Still maintain that posterior pelvic tilt, really allowing the front muscle to stretch. Great, let's go ahead and switch sides. So again, we're gonna start with that posterior pelvic tilt, and you can know that by making sure there's no dip or arch in your back, okay? Because that arch is being created by the hip flexors pulling. So when we're stretching on it, we wanna make sure that we're countering that, okay? And if you still don't feel it, then you can go ahead and bring your hips forward, making sure that your shoulders stay above your hips. Now go ahead and bring your hand up. Other hand goes on the inside of your thigh and turn your chest outwards. Perfect. Notice how the stretch is moved over to the outside. These two muscles can really cause problems for our low back and make us feel like we have a tug of war going on in our low back. Great. Okay, now, speaking of low back, we're gonna go ahead and start stretching the QL, one of the muscles in the back that causes a lot of spasms. So let's let's have a seat with our feet in front of us like this. Now, some of us aren't gonna be able to get this close with our feet, but you wanna make sure they lay flat. So if you're too tight, then bring your foot all the way in front. Start by sticking your chest out and then just dropping down. And go ahead and relax in this position for 30 seconds. Then after that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and bring your forehead to your left knee. So whichever foot is in front, you're gonna go to the opposite side. Then you'll really feel the stretch back here. And you might feel it in your hips too. Some of us are a little bit tighter in our hips than we are in our low back. Good, let's come back to center. Let's go ahead and switch feet. And now if you're too tight, in this position, your hands can come back here and stick your chest out to make sure that you're getting a good hip stretch. Go ahead and relax all the way if you can. Again, you're gonna hold this position for 30 seconds. And then let's go ahead and bring our forehead to our right knee, really allowing that twist. And if you're too snug, you can just bring your hands in front and try to twist yourself. Great, let's come back to center, and I always like to end on a roll up. So let's get into a nice tight squat, roll back onto your heels, and then we're gonna roll up inch by inch, allowing each of our vertebrae to come up towards the sky. And that's it. How do you feel?
I feel much better,
Great.
Thank you. I have to confess, so some of those exercises are pretty hard. Getting the body to fire right and having the flexibility is a challenge. So
It can be, yeah.
what should some of our viewers do if they're struggling with that?
You know, if you're struggling with it, keep going. But really pay attention to where your body is feeling these tight areas or where you're feeling the most trouble. And really look at your positioning, because when it comes to the muscles, you really have to put your mind and body together in order to get the right contraction. So a lot of us will let our body compensate and kind of do things the easy way. But as Dennett was saying, they're not easy at all. So you want to make sure that you're doing the right form to get the best optimal contraction with all of your muscles.
And any more tips on how to really get the right form? I mean, if you're at home or practicing these in the gym, how do you know if your body's aligned? I can kind of feel it.
You can kind of feel it, and really, mostly what it comes down to is the shoulder. You want to keep that above the knee, above your ankle. And if you do that in a squatting, in a lunge, in most exercises, you'll be able to fire your glutes really well.
Could you just show us from the side again? So your
sure.
knees should not go in front of your toes
No,
on
you
the
don't
squat?
want your knees to go back here because that puts too much tension on our poor kneecaps. It makes our quads work too much. And our quads, a lot of the exercises that we do in the gym on the leg press, leg extension, a lot of them are all using the quads and nothing back here. So you want to make sure that if you're starting to squat, that butt's way in back of you. The shoulder above the knee, above the ankle, okay? Shoulder above the knee, above the ankle.
That's a good one. A lot of people really struggle with the squats, and I think the squat's one of the main foundational exercises that people really need to work on. So I'm glad you could demonstrate proper form there.
Okay.
Now, I noticed there was a little video of you on YouTube, and you say you love fitness. Could you tell us real quickly, why are you so passionate about it?
You know, I love fitness because I think the human body is the most incredible machine that we have. And we have all the potential to live a very pain-free life our entire lives, all the way up to 80, 100. We don't have to start suffering from back pain at age 40 and just know that the next 40 years you're gonna have to keep taking different medications that are gonna slow your body down. They're gonna slow your brain function down when we can live strong and we can live free of pain. This is why I love fitness.
Well, I'm passionate about fitness too, and I really love it. I just actually turned 40 a few episodes back.
Yeah.
We did a show on that. And I think it's really inspiring that you brought your mom here and that she's working out with you.
Come on, Mom.
I'd like to encourage, great job. It's good to see you up here working out.
You can
I'd
be
like
fit
to
at any
encourage
age.
our viewers to be fit at any age. Get out there, push yourself. If you're already working out, work out a little harder. If you're not yet working out, start with some of these exercises and stretches. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so
It
much
was a
for
pleasure
having
to
us.
have you here. And a little thanks to our all-volunteer crew who helps produce this show as well.
Yep,
Thanks
thank you,
for
guys.
watching. Come back next month for another edition of High Five Fitness. Let's give a high five, everyone.
Yay!
Woo!
Yay! Yay!